Before we get started, I'm also going to announce the presentation is going to be on this screen. So for those of you over here, if you're having any trouble, Dr. Evans is going to be presenting over here. That screen over there is our Google Meet, just to allow people to join remotely. So if you're not able to see the screen and you'd like to, now's the time to move around the room. There's plenty of room in the back. I don't know if you heard that over there. The screen's over here, so if you want to view the presentation, we might want to find room in the back. That's the noise level, wow. All
It's a busy place now.
Yeah, I'll wait for everybody to situate and then we'll get started.
Of course.
Oh.
That's all right.
Did I press the wrong thing?
What are we supposed to be? And you got that screen on? You got that? Don't need it?
Just the people. Perfect. All right, I'll get us started. Hi, I'm Monica Heffernan. I am one of the members of the Suquamish Elementary PTO board, and we're general board members now. And this would be our regularly scheduled January meeting, but we've set that aside today to hear from Dr. Evans, have her present on the upcoming bond. In the interest of time, Dr. Evans and her staff do want to leave at 4:45 to catch the Huskies game. So in the interest of time, I'm sure many of you might also want to. Yes. So we're going to try to keep this as concise as possible. We do want to definitely leave time for questions. So if we could start questions at 4:30, regardless of where we are in the presentation, I think that'd be that would give us enough time for question and answers. We'll do that presentation, and then rather than have all of the parents introduce themselves, also in the interest of time, anybody who is not affiliated with Suquamish Elementary and our PTO will allow you to introduce yourselves so we know who's in the room, and we'll get started from there.
Okay. I'm Laurynn. I'm the superintendent for the school district, and I'll just have my staff raise their hands so you know that they're staff members of the district. That's the executive staff.
Anybody else in the room not affiliated with Suquamish Elementary and our PTO? Perfect. If you want to introduce yourselves.
Cheryl Harris from Oval Rotary. I'm this year's president.
I'm Christine Campbell, and I live in North Kitsap, and I think my community is really important. I want to make sure that our kids are educated the way they should be.
Thank you.
Carl.
Harlan Harris. I am from outside the district, technically, and not. I guess I'm in, but not in C. Well, here's what I
Skip that.
say. I'm in North Kitsap, not in Polk.
Perfect. Thank you. Anybody else?
I'd like to finish my children, Joe and Carolyn with you.
Thank you.
I still care a lot about the community and what's happening at the school.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Go ahead.
Joyce Becker, retired teacher, very interested in what's happening.
Thank you, Joyce.
I'm Stacy Schmeckel, and I am part of the Against Committee for this bond, because partially Suquamish Elementary School does not have designated stuff for their immediate needs being met on this bond proposal. I think it needs to be rewritten. Oh, you want to go next?
Ed and Linda Novak, we're grandparents and students. Go here.
Thank you. Thanks for coming today.
Go get that.
And my name is Susie Crosby, and I'm a community member. I'm here for two reasons. One, to help film. Since our district has stopped filming their meetings, I'm going to all the meetings helping film for a while until we can get that back on track. And the other reason that I'm here is because I am concerned that Suquamish, I want them to get a share of whatever bond we end up having. So that's why I'm here.
Thanks. Anybody else? Anything we're missing? Perfect. So I think. Oh, go ahead.
I'm Megan Bosch. I have two kids in the district, and I'm just here as a concerned community member. Want the best for our children. And here
I think with that, before we start your presentation, I think the elephant in the room that Stacy alluded to was, I think the big concern for most of the people in this room is Suquamish being
I'll
left
speak
off
about
the
that.
bond. Perfect. Yeah, I think through that lens, we'd love to
You
hear
bet.
about it. Thank you.
Sure. I appreciate you making time this evening, especially on the cusp of a big national championship with our local team. So I know that a lot of folks are very excited and interested in that. Just know that for many of you who are here, I have made and extended an invitation to meet with me personally on a number of occasions that hasn't been taken up. So again, if you want to have a sit down and talk with me and ask your questions, you can of course do that at any time if you would like. So again, my name is Laurynn Evans. I'm the superintendent of the school district, and what I'd like to do is to just discuss what is on the bond program as well as what is happening in the district right now. So as you know, we do have a strategic plan in the school district, and this came into being just before the pandemic, and it's been the guidepost that we've used to make decisions around programs, staffing, just about everything that we do in the school district as we move through time. And the strategic plan has 4 goals in it. And those 4 goals are, again, the pillars by which we do the work of the school district. Goal 3 particularly has been one that we've leaned upon very heavily, and that goal says success for all students, equitable access and opportunity for all children. And one of the things that we know is that when it comes to the facilities in our district, we do have haves and have-nots. And since arriving in the district and since having the strategic plan be put into place, we have worked diligently to start trying to bring equity to our facilities for all of our children across the school district. And we've done that through a variety of means. And then we also have been taking measures to try to get ourselves positioned. I don't know if I can compete or not.
Oh, she was so happy.
That's so hard. Anyway, so since I've been here, we've been trying to find ways to bring equity to all of our facilities for our students, and we've been doing that primarily through capital levies that have been approved by our voters in 2018 and 2022. The hope is to continue that work in a little bit more audacious fashion with a bond measure that will be on the February 13th, 2024 ballot. So what that means is that we will have to kind of step out of our comfort zone. Levies are a little bit easier for us to undertake, both in terms of implementation and also just in terms of voter support. Bonds are trickier. They're usually a bigger amount, they're a lot more work, and they do require a higher threshold of support by the voting public to get across the finish line. So before I talk about the bond, and I think speaking to what Monica brought up, which is the elephant in the room, is what's happening right now in the school district. Specifically Suquamish Elementary. So what happened is that in 2018, if I rewind the tape, I walked in the door, I started the job in 2017. When I walked in the door, I was greeted with a report that showed that there was $90 million of deferred maintenance in the school district at that point in time. This is maintenance that had been kicked down the curb for anywhere from 1 to 20 years for a variety of reasons that needed to be addressed. And so when we put the capital levy measure in place in 2018, the primary point of that was to address a lot of the deferred maintenance that had been neglected for several years prior to my arrival. That levy did allow us to do a number of significant works at all of our campuses across the school district, including roof repairs, HVAC repairs, a number of other upgrades and systems across the school district, including Suquamish Elementary. Out back is a beautiful new playground that got put in as a part of that 2018 levy effort. As a part of the playground being installed, there was a lot of ADA work in terms of ensuring that everyone could have access to that lower area, as well as drainage work. I understand that there are still issues with drainage in the fields here. We have drainage across most of the fields and drainage issues across most of the fields in our school district. We will still continue to address that and look to remedy that through smaller roster works that are not enumerated in the bond program, but may be part of we have a kind of a lump sum of money in the bond to help address these ongoing projects that we would like to tackle. Those will be determined in partnership with our facilities committee, which is a group of folks who have been serving, open, by the way, for membership. We'd be delighted to have more people participate. But these folks work, I'd say they meet 4 to 5 times a year, and then when we're getting ready for a measure, looking at trying to get projects stood up, we meet more frequently. But these are citizens from our community. These are known experts in construction-related fields. a group of concerned folks who have worked for a number of years to help with getting our levy program stood up, as well as getting this current bond measure put into place. So that's been the ongoing work, and there has been a checklist. It is on our website that shows all the project works that were listed in 2018, when and how they got completed, and that includes several projects here at Suquamish Elementary. The 2022 levy, capital levy, included a little bit of a change. Not only was it going to be designed to continue to tackle deferred maintenance issues, it also was put into place to continue the really strong work that we've done for technology and our students with one-to-one computing and all of the infrastructure that supports that. And then on top of that, 2 very big projects are rostered on that particular levy, actually 3, but right now we're looking at implementing 2. The first one is what's on the screen. This is Paulsbo Middle School. Paulsbo Middle School has been dealing with a set of portables behind the facility for a number of years. The portables are not going to be able to go away because the enrollment of that school is at a level that it is going to continue to sustain about 700 to 750 kids for the foreseeable future. What that tells us is that we need permanent classroom square footage to handle and accommodate the number of students that will be at that site for the foreseeable future. So a new wing is being put on to Paulsbo Middle School. It will have 10 classrooms. The campus is already underway in terms of the construction. This was not the plan originally. Actually, originally what we wanted to do was to start the project here first. When we went to go submit paperwork for that, we were told it would be at least 200 days for us to start, whereas City of Paulsbo got us through very quickly. We had to switch the project timelines, and so Paulsbo Middle is starting, and Suquamish will be starting soon. So that leads me to the gym that is coming here. That is a guaranteed project. It was part of the 2022 levy program. It is going to happen. The reason that we looked at having a gym space added on to this current facility is because Suquamish is one of 3 of our schools that has a cafe gymatorium. That's one room where we attempt to teach PE and serve lunch at the same time. It's really challenging. I know that for scheduling here at this school, it's very, very challenging. We will be addressing that issue at the other 2 sites with construction. We will be looking at rebuilding both Wolfley and Pearson. I'll talk about that in a moment. But for here, we will be adding a gym. The capital levy also earmarked money for a new gym for Wolfley. If for some reason we need to go the route of not having a bond, then we will move forward with the project of adding a gym for Wolfley as well, because that's part of what we committed to doing in the 2022 capital levy. When we earmarked so much funding for Suquamish in the levy, we looked ahead, and when we saw the bond and we looked at other things like enrollment for the school, the overall facility condition assessment report for the school, and other needs, we realized that the levy is going to address the pressing need here, which is to be able to have separate space for both gym and cafeteria facilities for students. So that project is guaranteed. It's happening. It's moving forward. It's a $5 million commitment for this campus. And the bidding will start hopefully, I think on Friday is what we're looking at. And then we'll be looking to get shovels in later this spring. I'll take questions when I get wrapped up, I promise.
Okay, regarding this,
Sure. So that is the plan. Right now, when we look at enrollment forecasts for Suquamish, it's pretty level for the foreseeable future. Students are able to be accommodated inside of the facility, and we're working on a plan to ensure that all classrooms will be located inside of the facility so that we can all have all of our students here inside the building. That's where we are with our current capital levy program, and that is the scope of work. So again, a significant project. Shovels will begin very, very soon, and it is exciting for this school. The capital levy is different from a bond, and there's a couple of reasons why. A lot of people have said, hey, look, you're doing really good work with the capital levy. Why don't you just keep running levies? And the answer is that right now in today's dollars, elementary schools are bidding out at $70 million to build from the ground up. We can't clear that kind of funding from a levy without a significant increase in property taxes for all of our taxpayers. It is literally impossible. So when we need to clear that kind of money up front to do a number of significant projects across the district, we need to go forward with a bond. A bond is a little bit more difficult because it does require a supermajority in order to pass. But what the bond does is it allows the district to collect the money up front and be able to engage in the significant roster of works up front, and then the money gets paid back over a 20 to 22 year time window. The last bond that took place here in this school district was in 2001. This is a long time ago. And in that 2001 bond, not only was Kingston High School built, Suquamish Elementary was one of, I think, 3 schools that were given a significant portion of that bond money. And in 2006 and 2007, a significant amount of work was done here on mechanical, structural, interior, exterior facades for the building. And again, not every school in the district got the benefit of that bond program, just a few. And Suquamish was one of the few that got the benefit of that bond program. I think something that's important to say, and that it is really important to share, is if we are going to be able to continue a roster of bonds and have a long-term project and everyone gets what they want, we're gonna have to take turns. And so there are specific buildings that are going to be coming up for major construction in the next bond cycle. A prime candidate is actually North Kitsap High School. A number of the buildings at that campus are very old and have been redone or patched up, and there's some significant mechanical and structural things there as well. But essentially what we're trying to do is to get everyone on a long-term cycle where every school gets both a rebuild about every 50 to 70 years and then gets a mid-cycle refresh about every 20 to 30 years. Because of the construction timeline of a lot of the buildings here, we can't do all of them at the same time. We're going to have to pace it out over a series of 60 years. So I understand that the concern here is why not Suquamish? And the answer is the facilities condition assessment report shows that mechanical systems are good. We had some anonymous complaints filed last week about certain things in the building, and today we had health inspectors in the building. They gave us a preliminary report. Everything is good. They're gonna give us a technical letter in a few days, I think, but their initial assessment is that the concerns that were raised are not warranted and the systems in the building seem to be operating as designed. So when we're in a position where, when we look at all the elementary schools and this facility rates the highest of all of the elementaries in the district, then decisions have to be made accordingly about who we address and how we address it and how we move forward from there. So at the end of the day, that was the decision that was made and that's how it came to be. Again, this decision was made after several meetings with the facilities committee, joint facilities and finance committee. This isn't something that I just did in isolation or that the board did in 2 meetings. This has been a discussion for 2 or 3 years at this point. And the idea of moving towards a bond and prioritizing different projects started as early as 2018. Because that's when we began talking about capital levies, and when we first started talking about capital levies at that point, we did talk about the need for a bond. Originally, we hoped to do that in 2022. The pandemic shifted that timeline for a variety of reasons, and that is why the bond is now on the 2024 ballot. So what I would like to talk about is what are we trying to do with the bond measure across the school district, and in essence, it's 4 things, and that is to have quality classrooms for all students, look at reducing or eliminating portables, which will increase the safety and security for our students. And then we're really trying to start the work of improving the play fields of all of our schools, and we're gonna start with the high school softball and baseball fields in that effort. So at the top of the roster is Pearson Elementary, which is our oldest facility. Pearson has got a number of problems that need to be addressed. And when we look at just where we are with that building and where we are with its history, it is time to rebuild. We did have an informational meeting at Pearson on Thursday, so I'm not gonna go into lots of detail here, but essentially Pearson will be rebuilt from the ground up at a new site. The site will allow for the school to be about 400 to 450 students. It will allow for all of the proper accoutrement of an elementary program that we want to have in this day and age. And so that is what we will be doing with that particular project. So again, this is a rebuild. Also, by having it built on a new site, the students will be able to continue attending school in their building as the new building is being constructed. If we tried to rebuild on their site, one of the things that we were running into is just how do we house the kids for 2 years while construction is ongoing? It was going to be very challenging. So the relocation of the site serves a number of purposes. It will be named Pearson Elementary. It's not going away. It's not being closed. It is going to stay Pearson Elementary. The second project on the roster is Wolfley Elementary, also problematic for a number of reasons. Wolfley, again, will be able to bifurcate that site, and the kids will still attend the current building that they're in while the new facility is built on the front of the lot. Wolfley is looking to have some dedicated space for the options program, as well as also eradicating the portables that are in an array behind that building that are also extremely old. So that's going to be another full rebuild and from the ground up for Wolfley Elementary. Again, elementary schools in today's dollars are bidding at $70 million a piece. So this is not an insignificant couple of projects that we're trying to accomplish here. Gordon Elementary is another school where not long after it was constructed, the enrollment exceeded the capacity of the building and portables were put in place. Gordon has several portables that are 20 years old or older. What we'll look to do there is to add the final footprint onto Gordon as outlined in its blueprints so that the portables can be taken away from Gordon Elementary.
When was Gordon built?
I don't know off the top of my head.
2001. Oh, so the last time.
No, not 2001. No, it's older than that. Most of them are in the 90s. Paulsbo Elementary School is also going to receive what's called a Sage Modular Building. They also have a big parcel of portables out front of the school. A Sage Modular will allow for what I would call semi-permanent square footage for students where all the classrooms are inside a building with restroom facilities. But it is not going to be a brick and mortar that would then like drive the future of that school if we go to rebuild it in 15 to 20 years. So it's an intermediary step, but it is a much better step than looking at having a portable structure there.
It is a portable.
And then at the high schools, we'll be looking to turf and light the baseball and softball fields at both high schools. This is Kingston and North. Any of you who have older students or who are aware, Kingston had to play about 70% of their home games off-site last year. That is just not good or right for our kids. So we would like to ensure that they're able to play their home games where they should be playing them. And also, coaches, kids, families have been spending hours and hours of time just trying to maintain these play fields for the last several years. We'd like them to spend that time playing and coaching and having a life. So again, by having these fields turfed, not only does it enhance the program, but it also enhances community access. Furthermore, at Kingston High School, a full metal stadium will be installed, big grandstand structure with cover, press box, restrooms, concessions, and storage. And so we know that this has been a big concern for the Kingston community for a number of years. Students who are currently enrolled in Suquamish Elementary will be beneficiaries of this when they roll up into high school at Kingston High School. So this is a very exciting project for that school. And then our middle schools will also be seeing some program dollars from the capital bond. Paulsbo Middle, again, is a focal point, mostly because the enrollment of that school is going to exceed the current capacity of the building for the foreseeable future. So right now is phase 1 with the 10 classrooms. With the passage of a bond, we would like to move into phase 2, which is to address the cafegimatorium problem at Paulsbo Middle School. Right now at Paulsbo Middle, they do serve lunch in the gym. They put a little folding wall down and they run PE on one side of the wall and they have lunch on the other. Phase 2 will allow us to put a commons in the back of that school to properly have a lunch space for kids and then enclose the back of the school as well so that they're not matriculating outside. Kingston High School also will see some money from this program, and the chief thing there will be doing a mid-cycle refresh for Kingston Middle School. So that's going to allow for the school to be given new finishings on the inside, new flooring, new walls, some furniture, some exterior upgrades. But the bones of that building are very good, and the classrooms are huge, and we know that staff really like the size of the classrooms there. So the point is to just try to bring it up to 2024 looks. So the long and short, this is kind of the fiscal of the program that we'd be trying to do. You'll see back in 2018, we began having this conversation. What this chart shows is what local taxpayers are paying to support schools. The dark blue is the state funding. The gold is what is local voter support for the EP&O levy. The dark red is the old bond that got passed in 2001. So that was the old bond program that built Kingston High School, did a refurb here at Suquamish and a couple of other sites. And then the green is when we started with the capital levy program. And what you'll see is where we have the circle for the potential bond is that the current capital levy is set to have collection at a high level for 2 years and then a lower level for the last 2 years, which creates the room for the bond without having a huge impact on tax rates. So we're trying very hard to be respectful of our tax-paying public, accomplished a lot of work, and then also set a runway for the long term where we can have every school be on this long-term cycle of being able to have a rebuild and a refresh on a schedule that will ensure that all 10 campuses are cared for over the long haul. So when we look historically at rates for our local taxpayers right now, it was of 2022 at least, we were paying the lowest rates per 1,000 in the last 20 years for schools. And in fact, when we look at our neighbors in 2022 dollars, we have the lowest rate of all of our neighbors in the entire county. And when we look at all school districts across the state who have the similar amount of taxable parcel, we again have the lowest rate of all districts of similar tax value. And so what this means is that we take any change in taxation very seriously, and we understand that that is not an insignificant thing for families in our school district. But we do know that for a very small nominal increase, we'll be able to undertake a significant amount of work and set the stage for future bond work that will allow us to touch all campuses on a schedule. And that's really the intent of what we are trying to do. We do know that a number of folks have had a lot of questions. I did sit down earlier this fall and had this winter, and met with both the Suquamish tribe and the Fort Gamble Squam tribe, fielded a lot of tough questions for them, showed them the data. Today, both tribes have gone public with the fact that they are endorsing this bond measure and are in full support. So that is in addition to a number of other entities that have spoken up to talk about the fact that they see that. Again, I believe that when folks have the opportunity to have the discussion and have the meeting and have the time, we certainly are able to share the information in a meaningful way. So that is what I have today. It is just a reminder that we have to start somewhere, and we need to really think about the future, and that pathway starts with thinking a little bit outside the box and trying to do the maximal good while maintaining a stable rate for our taxpayers. I think the last thing I would just say is that initially, I think everyone wants everything done, and I don't disagree with that whatsoever. And at the same time, when the facilities committee was having the conversation about projects, initially the discussion got well up over $300 million of project need that was found across the district that they wanted to tackle. And the reality is we can't do all of that in one big fell swoop because of the way that it will impact our taxpayers. So we have to find a way to straddle the mean. How do we not have a huge jump in tax rate for folks, and how do we get the maximum return on projects for our school districts? I will say that there is no one perfect answer, but this was the answer that was come to after years of discussion by a number of people. And that is what we will be looking for, and that is what is on the measure for February 13th. I'm looking at my team. Did I miss anything?
Do you want to speak to the financial impact for like an average family? I saw it on the slide, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think given the we're at 4:28, and with the earlier wrap up than we anticipated, we could do questions.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Can I do a real quick first question? Be so quick.
So we're gonna start with
Yeah, I'll do it. Go ahead.
Okay.
Susie's gonna start first, and I'll just keep track of who's got their hands up after that. Go ahead.
Thank you for hosting me today, everybody. Thanks for letting me come join you. I hold a value, my name is Susie Crosby, a value near and dear to my heart is that decisions that are made in a community should be made with the community, not to a community. I'm very curious when I look around this room, I'm delighted to see a lot of people here. How many people in this room had put a hand into the making of this bond plan, this proposed bond plan? How many of you here had a say in making the bond?
Is that a question?
It's a question.
question for me.
It's a question for the room. Anybody?
With the limited time, would it make sense to offer clarification questions as opposed to like providing the alternate?
That's where I'm coming from. I don't see any hands. I don't think anybody in this room, from my viewing, has had any say in the plan. So that's where I'm coming from. Thank you,
I
Monica.
had a question. Is there a reason why we didn't answer his question? Cause that was the first question and I didn't hear it get answered. Did it get answered and I missed it?
What was the question?
This is our turn. You guys have had your
What was the question that we overlooked? Wait, what was the question that we overlooked?
Oh, I was just, since we still had 2 more minutes before the 4:30 cutoff, Laurynn just asked if there was anything else, and I was just, we didn't talk about the $50 increase, and so since that is kind of a main bullet point of it, I just didn't know if she wanted to just audibly cover it. It was on the slide, so that's.
Oh, I'm sorry, I mean.
Okay. I think, does that cover it then? $50 increase per
Well,
household?
it's if your home is valued at $500,000, 10 cent per 1,000 increase, if you just put it into rough terms, it's $50 a year for a home that's valued at $500,000.
That was helpful, thank you.
Adam?
Yeah, I have a question. Okay, so you started doing this in 2019, correct? That you stated.
We start having initial conversations in 2017.
Cool. Okay, so you put $1 million into the HVAC system for Wolfley, correct? You're gonna tear the school down. Why'd you put $1 million?
So the HVAC system at Wolfley, I'm gonna look at Mike for some help on this one.
Yeah, I would just say, I wasn't here, but I know from what I've heard, the HVAC system wasn't heating the building.
No.
You're asking
that's
why?
my question, Mike. You spent $1 million
1.5.
to a school you're going to tear down.
Yes.
And then you just said $70 million for the projected elementary school, right? To have all the bells and whistles, right? Why is Pierce at $82 million when you spent $4 million already on the levy to buy the property? So now you're at $86 million. So where's the $16 million extra?
The way that I think they basically are looking at both different sites, obviously different costs related to developing a site. Also, when is the construction actually gonna occur? Cause I think Pearson starts and then a year later Wolfley starts. So there's difference in cost escalation of what it costs
Pearson's
you.
$82 million.
Yeah,
That's
so
and it's starting
also
now.
you have Wolfley, I don't think Laurynn mentioned that in the capital levy, there's a gym replacement in the capital levy for Wolfley. So that brings the cost of Wolfley's down because there's already some of the money accounted for. So, I mean, if you wanna get into like exactly how do you count them, maybe
But
give me a
money,
call.
when you say $0 to Suquamish, and you're accounting for $16 million difference, right? Cause this is the number you're all telling us. We're $60 million out, okay? And then
Yeah,
also, if all these other places were on the capital levy, and they're also on the bond, why are we not on the bond?
Yeah, maybe you can give me a call and we can go through the 16 million so we can tie down exactly what the reality is when the projects are costed out, you have money that went into a number of different projects in the district from the capital levy, correct? In terms of what it costs to build a school, it's not the exact same at each site because of the different sites. Also the fact that you're not paying for a gym at Wolfley that you are paying for at Pearson, so I'm not exactly sure how you're coming up with $16 million difference.
Cause she's saying 70 million for.
In today's dollars, so if you go to the website, if you go to the website, we have it all laid out, we've scoped out for inflation and everything else starting, it's all laid out in terms of what we anticipate the actual project cost to be when we start in 2025 or 2027, that it's all put out there.
Well, and I think it's important to know that, as part of the bond, there is $10 million district-wide. Suquamish will have projects within that $10 million. They are not broken out in the large projects that are happening, but there will be things here that if that bond passes.
Yeah, but your own assessment says that we will need $7 million over the next, between 2018 and 2037, that's almost $9 million in today's date, so that was 2018. So are you gonna give us that $9 million from that 10 that is supposed to be spread across the entire district? Are you? Can you confirm that you will commit?
$9 million of the bond.
But they wouldn't come in our school.
It would be decided by the.
But what I'm saying is that's what your own assessment
I encourage you to join the facilities committee and be a part of the conversation because you're very passionate about it, so it'd be great for you to have a voice there.
This isn't right.
Oh, I'm
Well, that
sorry,
does
but
sound
why
like the
should we
ideal option.
why should
Join the
we,
committee.
excuse me, I'm a teacher at another district, my son goes here, I love this community. You guys, your district, your teachers voted casted 99% no confidence. Why should we believe anything you say?
I'm not going to presume to tell you how to think or believe, I'm just here to
I'm
share
not
information to the best
either,
of my
I'm not
ability.
either, but what I'm telling you is that the people that work in this district casted a 99% vote of no confidence. So, please tell me. Please tell me
Alright,
why.
I know we have a lot of emotions running high in the room, so I'm gonna stay, I'm gonna continue to moderate, and I'm gonna take questions one at a time. Thank you, Kat.
I have one.
Joyce has had her hand up for quite a while, then I'm gonna go to Becky and then you, sir, in that
I'm
order.
concerned, don't we have any federal funding? Because it's my understanding that the reason there's portables is because federal funding was accepted under the guise that you have to have a certain amount of portables to get the federal funding.
No, that's
Are there
not-
any grants?
That's not accurate, there's no federal funding involved, and portables don't have anything to do with federal funding.
This is in the past.
And it's in, yeah, I mean, I've done this for.
Have you applied for any federal funding? Have you applied for any grants? Are there any grant writers in the district? Why is it only taxpayers that you're going to?
Yeah, there's a little bit of state construction money that's just the scheme in the state. The state requires local, there was actually a lawsuit from a district in Southwest Washington, sued the state saying that they're not funding, and the Supreme Court ruled for the states. We have to pass a local measure, there has to be local money to generate state funds, and I've never seen federal funds to the level we're talking about, because honestly.
Well, any level. Have you applied for any level of federal
Certainly
funding?
the district has applied for federal grants, we get all kinds of federal grants, yes.
Where's it going? Yeah.
It's going into the operations
Federal money
of
is categorically oriented, so when we get that money from the federal government, it is dictated to be spent in very particular ways. And again, I know Mike has made himself very available to those who want to get into the weeds on that. Contact him, he'll sit down and chat with you about it and walk you through it. There's nothing, it's all also published on our website.
Becky, you were next.
Yeah, actually, my question is sort of different. Like, when I was listening to you talk, and you're like, oh, well, in 20 years or whenever, when we're on that cycle, and I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, so we're gonna expect all of North Kitsap to just buy into us getting a huge amount of funds and them not getting funds? Like, when we project to the future and we're like, oh, we're good for 20 years, then you're expecting an entire community to buy into one school and feel like that's gonna sell us going forward. Like, if you're convincing us right now that like, oh, don't worry, you're gonna get yours in 20 years, you're gonna tell me that you think that you're gonna be able to sell an entire community on one school versus other schools? This seems like a little bit of like a perfect, like there's not a lot of practicality to the idea that like somebody from Hallsbow, like every single school getting way less and us getting something. That seems like an even harder sell than this one does.
So I can't sell the bond, I'm providing information. All I can say is that we have to be on some type of cycle. And I would say that communities that seem to be in support of their schools and value them are okay with that. I look at Bainbridge and they took turns. They didn't put all their schools on one bond measure. They have them on a cycle. Central Kitsap didn't have all of their schools on their last bond measure that passed in 2016. They had 2 or 3 schools that were beneficiaries of that bond measure, and others will have to wait their turn. That is how it operates across the district. We try very hard, and most districts do, to have different locations, different grade levels, different buildings be up front in different bond cycles. But it's impossible to have every single school on every single measure. It's almost impossible to do.
We understand that.
It
but
seemed like you almost did it, except for us.
Yeah.
It's because, again, a significant chunk of levy money from the 2022 levy is coming here, so that
It's not.
investment is already guaranteed.
Paulsboro Middle School is taking most of that.
Paulsboro
money.
Middle School
It's
has an
taking most of
enrollment.
that, and then they're getting 25 million
I'm not
in
gonna
the
argue,
bond.
I know how you feel, Beth, you've been really clear, and I mean, I just.
I'm trying to argue for what's right, and you know in your heart of hearts, this is
not right.
I appreciate your
No school should get
perspective,
zero.
I'm clear, I'm
No
very
school
clear
should
on your
get
perspective, so I can't argue with you because you're dug in on your side, and I'm trying to just put the information out there that I know, so we're not gonna be able to agree. I'm sorry about that.
So, there's a two-part question. Obviously, there's a list of priorities and trade-offs. And is that, I mean, it's publicly available as far as how much those priorities, what the lead times are, what the financial impacts of not doing those. And when we look at those, and this is part two of the question, when we say we're gonna do X, Y, and Z, is there any guaranteed contractual, besides force majeure, that the district will do it?
Good
And
question.
And, you know, to hold the feet to the fire, such that, you know, well, we changed our minds, or we decided to go buy another, you know, parcel of land to build another school, well, that was nowhere there. So in that sense, and I understand you can shift money around your budgets, short term, long term, but at the end of the day, it's like, we guarantee these as a taxpayer, that's really the question.
So, your first question, I think, was, what are we using in terms of prioritization? And so a lot of the discussion from the facilities committee was based on a 2018 facilities condition assessment report. That is being re-upped this year. So what that committee will do is examine that report, and that's gonna continue to drive the conversation about what priorities are emerging to the top in terms of mechanical, structural, facilities issues that are presenting themselves that need to be addressed. That's part one. Part two, no, there is not a ironclad contractual guarantee about what the roster is. When the measure goes on the ballot, it enumerates what the main goals of the bond measure will be. In order to change those, a significant amount of things have to happen in terms of steps. When we had the 2018 levy in place, and we initially had that passed, some changes were enacted on that one, and that went through the facilities committee, several discussions, then it went to the board for basically reconsideration, explanation, and ultimately a vote. When we say we're gonna do something, we have a very good track record of doing it. In 2018, we had a punch list with tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 projects. We accomplished everything that we said we would in tier 1, and we accomplished just about everything we said we would do in tier 2. Our commitment in 2018 was to the tier 1 projects only. I said I'd put my hand on my heart on those and we get them done. If we can do it, we'll do tier 2, and if we have anything left, we'll go tier 3. We did that, and we did follow through on that. Our current capital program for 2022, again, also, we said we will do the work at Paulsboro Middle School. It's coming up. We're gonna be doing the work here at Suquamish Elementary, and pending if we need to, we'll either do the work at Wolfley or we'll transfer those funds to allow for the rebuild of Wolfley pending the outcome of the bond. So I don't have an ironclad contractual thing that says this is what will happen, but there is a process that would be followed if anything does significantly shift. I can tell you that other districts that had bond measures passed just before the pandemic ran into some serious challenges because of supply chain issues and everything, like other things, where they had to reprioritize projects to account for 20% inflation in construction industry and everything else. When that happens, they go through their facilities committee, they have a series of discussions, then it goes back through the board approval process. So it's not like a midnight meeting can happen and all of a sudden everything changes. It's an open, public, multi-meeting process that gets followed through that.
I was gonna add that there is a resolution process that the board approved the bond resolution with specific projects in it. So that's about as close to a contract as you're gonna get. The only way that would change would be as if there was another public meeting and the board changed their mind. We did build in inflation costs, so the belief is we can do all the projects.
Randy?
I have a question about the gym, just to throw it out there, because you keep talking about levy and bond and 20 years out from now. My concern about the new gym, since I don't know, a lot of people here walk past the gym that you guys are eating lunch and PD in right now, but to my understanding, the levy money that's going to is the gym is actually smaller than what is being built. than what they're in right now. So my question is, if it's the levy to the bond, and you're gonna push down another rebuild in 20 years with the population growth within the school, and the gym you're building for 5-7 million, whatever you said, is actually way smaller than the gym that is so small right now, and it's not even gonna benefit the community as like an actual PE basketball court or anything like that. So why are you wasting another $5-7 million when realistically it's a pointless gym and waste of money?
Well, I don't know if that was a question, I think that was a statement of
Well, I mean,
opinion.
my question to you is, like, you've been in the gym, correct?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so why would you spend another $5-7 million for a new gym that's actually smaller than what you're trying to?
So the max budget, as I understand it, is up at 5 million. I think it's 4.5 is what we're really looking at.
Okay.
And the reason why is because we've heard that it is a huge challenge to try to have lunch and PE at the same time. So having a second facility is very helpful.
Okay.
The site is constrained. I'm sorry. I know I don't talk over other people. I hope we can be somewhat respectful.
I'm listening, so continue. I'm just, I'm always in there, so that's my question. If the gym is, it's not like a little, like 2 feet, it's actually like a big significant of measurement off of the wall to actually probably like the 3-point line.
The orientation, I think, of the new gym is just, it's different in terms of length to width, so.
Yeah, so it doesn't accommodate like even the community to be using as like a pee-wee basketball court, or, you know, you're taking away other areas of the project that, and in 20 years, if another bond has to go and we get funding then, if it passes, are we fire code? Like, can all staff go in there? Can, in 20 years, the population go and not everyone can be in assembly, or, you know, all that? Like, that's my question for the gym and moving forward if another come around in updates for school, is my, you know what I mean? To me, I just would like to know.
So there are certain configurations for elementary gyms that are very common and that are put into place by a number of buildings. So when we worked with the architects around the gym project for this facility, the gym that is going in is a very common footprint that is at many elementary schools, not just regionally, but like a number of locations. The reason it's oriented a little bit differently is because we're constrained by the bus loop on that far side. So we don't have just kind of an open season on where we can put something. We have to actually make it work with the footprint that we have available for construction. So we're trying to maximize the amount of square footage we can get in the gym, have it be kind of a regulation, I forget if it's a 7-9 or a 9-11 gym. And be able to have it be useful by students here. So is there any perfect design that meets every single need ever? No. Is the gym going to be able to accommodate PE class as well as also being able to have lunch? Yes. So that's what we're trying to do.
I know, but, so you didn't answer my question. It's still, I don't believe it's gonna be fire code. In 20 years, the population is like this, you're still just spent.
I don't know that it's a 20-year runway. I'm using that as a
I'm just saying, as of right
hypothetical,
now, you can't, I don't think the gym that is there is very close staff, all student body, very close to fire code as of right now, and the gym you're building with the funding from the levy is actually smaller. So there's my question, just like, no offense, I don't know, your kids at CK, my mom's on the board, is CK's gym was not built in the brand new school at the middle school and high school, smaller than they can, and they're not up to fire code. So they can't have a full staff, full assembly within both those schools. So that is my question to you, if we're doing $5 million gym, but yet not everybody can come together, and this is a very tight community, tribal, everybody's involved family, and you're telling me we can't have cultural days, song and dance in the gym because we all don't fit in the gym that you're spending almost $5 million on. That's what I'd like to know.
I don't know off the top of my head, so I'll do some looking at that.
I think Mr. Byers needs to speak to that.
I am not here to make big stink, because it feels like it's one of those things that we don't have a lot of control over. I would like to say that we have, I don't know, somewhere between 130 and 160 years of PE experience in the district that not one person was talked to. We've been in these buildings, and yes, you probably should get rid of us, but we've been here doing it. We've got 4 or 5 of us, 30 years in the same buildings, the same gyms. Really might have been some good input as to what would be a good fit for what our community uses and does. The first time I was introduced to the project was in a meeting that was nice. It was like, I'm not upset about it, it was just strange that my first experience was to pick out colors in my gym. And I had no interest in colors. Those are not, we have people who are really good at picking out colors. I'm not one of them. I was more curious about lights and gym, you know, the height of the hoops, what's the format of it, do I have dimmers, bathrooms? Those were input, those were answered. Sounds like it's gonna be a beautiful facility. I mean, it really does, a new gym, awesome. It's really upsetting if it's not even as big as literally one of the smallest gyms in the district. When we measure them out square footage wise, I'm gonna be honest, it just doesn't make a lot of difference. A rectangular space for basketball and volleyball and most of the games that are played by children is really important. A space smaller than the one I have is going to be dangerous. And so I'm actually gonna throw this out right now. If there's any way that I get to keep teaching in the space I'm in and use the new space for a lunchroom, if it really is smaller. Now here's the other caveat. I've talked to some of the facilities people, and it was more of a different shape than a smaller gym. If that's all true, well, then we're gonna make the best we can. If it really is as much smaller as it looked like on the specifics that I looked at, it's not even tenable. I mean, it's like, I'd like you to come and watch my 29 fourth graders run in circles doing laps in my gym and tell me that it should be smaller. And I wasn't trying to attack, I'm not trying to attack, I'm just trying to make people think about, we're gonna spend $5 to $7 million on a space that doesn't actually work. And the fact that most of the state or most of the elementary schools have gyms that are set up this way means squat to me, really. I don't care if they're not in my community and they're not doing what I'm doing. Well, it's not that it's an attack. I don't want her job at all. I really don't.
And I know we're
We're
I know we're over time. I think
Yeah,
this is a really
sorry.
important topic, so can we allow for one more question and then wrap up?
The small elephant in the here and now question. We have a portable. How will that be addressed?
We would like to have the portable go. It's one of the older ones as well. So by bringing the teacher in and their students into the building, then we will be able to have that one go as well.
But you know they're in the portable for a reason.
That's
the space.
I understand. I think that there's been a lot of discussion about how we reassess and look at how we're using the spaces in the building currently. That will allow for that to be undertaken. So stay tuned.
I'm gonna wrap up. I know, Dr. Evans will have to head out. I just wanna say in closing, you know, the presentation opened.
Can I ask a question about the mod? Like, why, so all our classrooms are full. You're getting rid of a portable, I think it was poles in the middle, one of the poles was full, and replacing it with a nicer, better than portable Sage modular, to have like an interim step instead of adding on to the building. So why can't we do that here? We have full classrooms, and they're not unlike poles in the middle, they're not like big and wonderful. So why can't we have a Sage modular here as an interim step if you're not gonna add on? And also, we need a kickball field, because our kickball field is dirt. And who from Suquamish Elementary is on, or maybe North Kitsap is on this facilities committee?
It's
Like,
open to anyone who wants to join. It's on the website
do you
to
make,
join it.
is it representational?
It's as representational as it is by interest of those who submit an application to join the committee. I don't think we've turned down an application yet in the 7 years I've been here. I'm sorry, I'm going to go.
Sounds like the football game's
so
important. I just wanna say in
thanks.
closing.
It's
Thank you
not
all for
about
coming.
football
Thank you for
either.
the presentation.
So, we said we would be here for a short amount of time, and I am here, and I'm happy to meet with folks if they wanna reach out to me, but,
There's
we're
another
done for
meeting
this
next
evening,
week.
So thank you.
At Wolfley.
There's another meeting next week at Wolfley if anybody wants to attend with follow-up questions.
I'm just gonna make a statement to the staff of the district and the superintendent. If you wanna come on Friday when it's 22 degrees outside and watch those kids walk from the portables to go use the bathroom inside this building, then you're more than welcome to come here, okay?
The 17th. January 17th.
January 17th at Wolfley. If you want to have any follow-up questions, feel free to bring them to that meeting as well.
And thank you everybody for showing up and supporting us today. We really appreciate the outcome.